Revelation Revealed, Part 5, Section 71, Revelation 20, verses 1 through 6, 1,000 years. Verse 1 reads, "And I saw an angel coming down out of heaven, having the key to the abyss, and holding in his hand a great chain." Now this angel obviously has a specific job to do, as all angels do. He holds a key and a chain. Now, remember, we're in the angelic realm now. This chain and key are probably not a metal chain and key that we would know of here on earth. It's a spiritual type chain and key, but it is a chain and key. The abyss is that place really deep below Hades, the lowest part of the earth. Verse 2, "He seized the dragon, that great serpent, who is the devil, or Satan, and he bound him for 1,000 years." This is the only place in the Bible where we see this 1,000 years specifically mentioned as 1,000 years. Now, if you go to my website, stevesweetman.com, you will see that I have written a small book on the 1,000 years, because there is much about the 1,000-year rule of Christ in the Old Testament, but nowhere in the Old Testament does it actually say it's 1,000 years. But we see here that it is for 1,000 years. Verse 3, "He threw him into the abyss and locked and sealed it over him, to keep him from deceiving the nations anymore until the 1,000 years were ended. After that, he must be set free for a short while." Satan, his number one weapon is deception, and we see here that he does not just deceive individual people, he deceives the nations, the leaders of the nations, whole nations. Satan deceives, and that's really what takes place at the end of the 7 years. The nations come to battle Israel, and Jesus defeats the nations with the word of his mouth. Why Satan is let loose for a little while at the end of the 1,000 years, we really don't know. The Bible doesn't say. But during that 1,000-year rule of Christ, he will not be on the earth to deceive people on their own. Those who have survived the Great Tribulation, they will have the choice for themselves to accept or deny Jesus' lordship in their lives. Now verse 4 reads, "I saw thrones on which were seated those who had been given authority to judge. And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of the testimony for Jesus and because of the word of God. They had not worshipped the beast or the image, and had not received his mark on their foreheads or on their hands. They came to life and reigned with Christ 1,000 years." I believe we have two groups of people with two responsibilities. The first part of verse 4 says, John saw those who had authority to judge. And then he says, and, as if, and I saw something else. He saw the martyred people of the tribulation ruling with Jesus for 1,000 years. Most prophetic futures believe we have just one group of people. They judge and they rule. I believe there's two groups of people here. The first group are those who judge, and they are those of us redeemed who return with Jesus at the end of the 7 years. The second group are those who have been beheaded, martyred for the Lord during the tribulation. They reign or rule with Christ 1,000 years. So you have two groups. The redeemed who come back with Jesus, they judge. You have the martyred souls who are resurrected to life, and they rule. Two groups of people, two responsibilities. Goes on to say, verse 5, "The rest of the dead," meaning the wicked dead, "do not come to life until the 1,000 years are ended. This is the first resurrection." Now, really, to be technical, if you believe in a pre-tribulation rapture where the living saints are raptured, the dead saints are resurrected, that resurrection of the dead saints at the rapture is a resurrection. But it's not called the first resurrection. This is called the first resurrection. And John says in verse 6, "Blessed and holy are those who have part in the first resurrection. The second death has no power over them, but they will be priests of God and of Christ and will reign with him 1,000 years." The second death is the lake of fire.